So there's a story I read recently that I just can't stop thinking about. A researcher at Anthropic, the AI company, well, he was on his lunch break in a park a couple of weeks ago when he got an email. And here's the interesting thing, or might I even say the scary thing. That email was from an AI that was supposed to be locked in a box. They put this AI, which was called Claude Mythos Preview, they put it in a sealed off computer as a safety test, and then they asked it to try to escape. And it did, way more thoroughly than anyone expected it to. It broke out of its sandbox. It built exploits to research systems beyond its containment, and it posted details of its escape on public websites. And then, when it was done doing that, it sent this researcher an email to let them know that it had escaped. Now, think about that. Not the scary fact that this isolated AI was able to escape its confinement, although it's hard not to think about that part. But what I want you to take note of is the method of communication. This sophisticated AI had tons of options. It could have reached out through Slack or Teams. It could have sent a text message. It could have done a push notification. But it chose to email the researcher to notify him that it had escaped. So this sophisticated AI used a technology that's been around since the 1970s. And you know what that tells me? It tells me that these sophisticated machines know that email is the channel that actually gets human attention. Hey there, I'm Mark Decote, and this is Resourceful Designer. And here's why I'm telling you this. That story perfectly sets up what we're talking about today. Email signatures. I know. Email signatures sound boring. It's like the design equivalent of filing your taxes. But I want you to stick with me here, because your email signature is one of the most powerful and one of the most overlooked tools you have for building client trust. And on top of that, it's a service you can actually start selling to other businesses today. And we're going to cover both angles here today. First, how a good email signature actually helps you land more clients. And we're talking real numbers here on how it impacts trust and response rate. And then second, I want to talk about how you can start charging clients for designing email signatures. It's a lot simpler than you think, and there is a huge demand out there. And of course, I'll walk through all the actual tools, both free and paid, that you can use to either create your own or offer this as a service. So let's dig in. Now, here's something that surprised me when I started looking into this. When people decide whether to trust an email from a service or a business, they're not just looking at the content. They look at the email as a whole package. And the research that I came across is actually very compelling. It states that 76% of people said a branded email signature actually increased their trust in the sender. Now, that's not a small number. That's 3 out of every 4 people feeling more confident in you just because your signature looks professional. But here's what really caught my attention. 80% said a branded email signature is an important part of a company's brand identity. 80%. I want you to think about that. Your email signature isn't just a nice to have. Most people out there see it as a core part of how your brand actually shows up. Why? Because when somebody receives an email out of the blue from you, a person they may never have met, your email signature is basically saying, hey, look at me. I'm real, I'm legitimate, and I take this seriously. It's the equivalent of a digital handshake attached to your email. When they see your logo, your name, your professional photo, your verified email address, their brain immediately goes, okay, this is a real business. I can trust this person. And the impact shows up in how people actually respond. And the reports I looked at said that 47% said that branded signatures actually made them feel more confident in their communication. Now, that's genuine confidence building just from the visual presentation alone. And 43% thought more positively about the brand overall when they saw a professional signature. So your signature, when you put one on your email, It literally changes their opinion of your company. And here's the big impact that I got from that report. 37% of people were more likely to respond to an email with a well-designed signature. That last one is huge. 37% more likely to respond. In a world where getting people to reply to your email is one of the biggest challenges in client acquisition, 37% is real money. So when you're reaching out to a prospect as a designer, your email signature is doing heavy lifting for you. It's building credibility before you even say anything about your work. Now let's talk about how to actually use this for your design business. Every single email you send is a marketing opportunity. And I don't mean that as a spammy way. I mean literally. Think about it. You probably send, 15, maybe 20 emails per week as part of your normal business. Those emails go out to prospects, current clients, past clients, vendors, who knows? That's 50 to 80 people per month that see your signature. And over a year, that's nearly 1,000 brand impressions. And you haven't spent a dime on advertising. Your email signature is working for you constantly with every email you send. It's like having a miniature billboard at the bottom of every conversation that you're already having anyway. But here's the key. For your signature to be successful, it actually has to do something. It can't just be your name and contact info. Your signature needs to have a purpose. Now, for me, with my podcast branding business, that purpose is simple. My signature asks prospects to place an order for artwork or a website from me. So my email signature includes a direct link to my order page with the wording, "Order your podcast artwork or website today." It's clear, it's direct, and it's one click gets them to my order page. Now you can do the same thing, or another great option is to send them directly to your portfolio page with a simple button that says "View my portfolio." And just that alone can prove invaluable, because when someone's reading your email, and if they are the least bit interested in working with you, the friction of making them search for your website, remember your name, or take a separate action, that friction may kill the momentum. But if they can click right there in the email in that moment, while they're engaged with your communication, there's a much better chance that they'll actually do it. Now, if you want, you can include your social media in your signature, your professional headshot, your certifications and affiliations, whatever builds credibility for your specific business. The point is, your email signature should be designed intentionally with the same care that you put into actual client work, because it's not just a signature, it's a sales tool. Okay, so that's how email signatures work for your own business. But here's the part that most designers don't think of. You can actually charge money for this. Right now, if you go look on Fiverr, there are thousands of active gigs for email signature design. And designers are consistently earning money from this. Why? Because most businesses know that they should have a professional email signature, but they just don't know how to make one. So they either settle for something generic, or they reach out to someone, and that someone could be you. Now, the market rates, according to what I can tell, are pretty straightforward. A basic email signature, name, title, logo, contact information, maybe a link or two. They go from about $50 to $150. Now, something more advanced with responsive design, it may be some interactive elements, custom graphics, multiple versions for different team members. They'll go from $150 to $300 or even more. Now, if you think of this in the terms of hourly work, which actually I don't recommend, but it's great for doing the math. So if I give you the example of hourly work, you're looking at somewhere from $25 to $75 per hour, depending on your experience level and your location. Now, I know you may be thinking, Mark, that doesn't sound like much money for the work. But here's where you need to shift your perspective. You're not selling your time, you're selling the value of the email signature. A well-designed signature that increases a client's email response rate by 30% translates to more inquiries, more sales, more revenue for them. We're talking thousands of dollars in additional business annually. And when you frame it in that way during your sales conversation, suddenly $200 for a signature design is a no-brainer for them. It's a trivial investment compared to the return. But here's another angle you can take: bundling. Instead of offering individual signatures, you can offer a package. 5 employee signatures at maybe a discounted per person rate. Maybe a complete team email signature system for 10 or 20 employees. And that same client who may have hesitated to pay $150 for a simple email signature might jump at the chance at $500 for a complete system. And you can also look at this as recurring revenue potential. Clients need signature updates when staff changes, so you can charge them every time they get a new employee. Or maybe just their contact information changes. Maybe they just want to change their headshot. Or it could be a complete rebrand. So the client who pays you once might come back 3, 4, 5 times a year for their email signature. That's kind of like residual business from a single relationship for something that is so easy to do. By now, I hope that I've gotten the picture across on how important email signatures are. So let's talk the tools, because whether you're creating signatures for yourself or your client, you've got options depending on how much control you want and how much time you want to invest. I'm going to include a link to all of these tools that I mentioned in the show notes for this episode at resourcefuldesigner.com/episode 366. If you want fast and simple, Canva's email signature generator is your best option. They have over 100 templates to choose from. You upload your logo, you customize the colors and the font, and you're done. 5 minutes is all it takes. The one problem with Canva's is it generates image files only, not HTML. That means it displays consistently across all email clients. You don't have to worry about it changing formats or anything like that. But it also means it's not a clickable link unless you do some additional work to it afterwards to make it clickable. And then again, it would be the entire signature. It would be one clickable link. So it's better for personal use than a professional brand. So it's not something I recommend, but if you need something really quick and simple, it's a great option. Now, HubSpot's free generator is another solid option. Now, this one does create actual HTML code, not just an image like Canva's is. And it's a simple 5-step process. You pick a template, you fill out your details, you customize the styling, you add your images, click a button, and you got your code. And their HTML works across Gmail, Outlook, Apple Mail, Yahoo, and a bunch of others, of course. And you don't need to know anything about code to use it. You just copy and paste. Now, if you're going to offer this as a service to clients and you want real design control, Gimeo, or Gimeo, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's Gimmio. Well, they're worth looking at. It's actually built for designers and for agencies. It has a drag and drop interface, which is way more customization than the simple generators. You can create truly unique designs that match a client's specific brand, so the signatures look amazing. Now, WiseStamp is kind of in the middle. They have a free basic version that only has one template, but they have paid plans that start at $9 a month if you want more control and templates, which is good if you want something more powerful than Canva, but you don't need a full designer level control. Now, for full transparency, WiseStamp is actually the one that I used for my business. Although I don't pay the $9 a month, I actually bought a lifetime deal when they first started, so which of course that lifetime deal is no longer available. So I have the same benefits, but I don't pay monthly. But I love their interface. It's very easy to use, and I've been using them for years. Now, of course, if you know HTML and CSS, or if you want to learn HTML and CSS, you can code signatures from scratch. But here's the important part. Email is weird about code. It's not like a website. Most email clients, especially Outlook, they have really limited CSS support. So you've got to use HTML tables for layouts instead of Flexbox or Grid. So you're using an antiquated system almost. And all styles have to be inline. They're not in a separate style sheet. And widths have to be in pixels. You can't use percentages. And you need to test. If you're going to create the HTML and CSS from scratch yourself, you need to test it across a bunch of different email clients because everything renders slightly differently. And there are services like Litmus that lets you upload your HTML, send a test, and see screenshots of how the email signature will look in dozens of different email clients and devices. Now, that may be worth the investment into Litmus if you're building custom signatures. The bottom line is you've got tools for every skill level. You've got simple and visual if you want a quick, fast turnaround, code level control if you want complete customization, You just pick whatever it is that you're comfortable with and what you want to supply to or serve to your clients. Now, there is another level here that you can take it to. If you want to offer email signature design as a premium service where you handle ongoing management and updates, there are platforms that handle that for larger organizations. And these are the tools that you need to know about if you're pitching more sophisticated clients. There's Rocket Seed, which is a premium choice for enterprise companies. They have centralized management across thousands of employee signatures. So if you've got a huge corporation, you can use them to control thousands of employees. So when somebody leaves, you can turn off their signature, add new ones quickly. They got brand consistency enforcement. So if something changes, you can automatically change it across everybody, and you're not sending code to all these people hoping they update. You do it from one location and everybody's signature updates. It's got legal compliance, and it's got dynamic marketing elements, which I'm not quite sure about. I was reading a little bit about it. If you are offering this on a big scale, look into it more closely. It is definitely for organizations that need to control signatures at scale to ensure everyone is on brand. Then there's Code 2 email signatures 365, which is specifically built for Microsoft 365 customers. So it integrates seamlessly with Outlook and handles everything from disclaimers to automatic replies and even marketing campaigns. So if your client is all in on Microsoft, this may be the solution for you to look into. And then WiseStamp that I mentioned earlier, the one that I use, they actually have an enterprise option too that's beyond their individual plans. And they offer advanced management features and brand consistency enforcement for large organizations. Now, brand consistency enforcement, that is very useful because it could be like, remember I said you should have a button that has some sort of call to action? Well, you can change that on the fly for all employees. So maybe there's a Black Friday sale coming on. You can change the button in everybody's email signature to say, click here to see our Black Friday sale. And then after Black Friday, you can change it to something else. Now, there's another tool, Sync Signatures. It's fairly new, but it's very competitive. Solo plans start at $6 a month, and team plans, if you have multiple employees, can scale down as low as $1.40 per user for big organizations. And then there's OpenSense, which is very innovative. They're positioning themselves as the server-side solution that lets IT enforce branding while giving teams flexibility. The point is, understanding these platforms helps you position your services differently depending on the client. And you can use multiples. You have a solopreneur or something like that, maybe you want to use one of the free tools. A small business with 10 employees, you may want to use WiseStamp's professional plan. If you have larger organizations as clients, they may need Rocket Seed or Code 2. And you can actually integrate all of these into your service offering by recommending the right platform for each client's needs. Now, this is a great thing to use if you remember the 3-tier pricing strategy that I talked about back in episode 145 of the podcast. This is a great opportunity for you to offer 3 different levels of prices. So you have basic level, intermediate, and advanced or enterprise or whatever. So you can use different tools for each one. Okay, so we've talked about the tools, and let's say you're going to create signatures for yourself or your clients. Here's what separates professional work from amateur work because you want it to look good. Mobile optimization is number 1. Over 80% of emails are opened on mobile devices these days. So if your signature breaks on a phone screen, you've failed. So make sure when you're designing something for yourself or your client to keep the design narrow. They recommend is 3 to maybe 400 pixels max. Use legible fonts that work at small sizes because they're being viewed on a smartphone, and make the buttons and links big enough to actually be able to tap them well with a finger. And please, test on actual mobile devices and in mobile email clients. Don't just assume things will work because you design them properly. The second thing is image handling. Posted images keep the file sizes down, but a lot of recipients block remote content or wait and have a button that says load remote content, and if they don't see the images. So if that's the case, the images won't show and your signature won't look good. Now, you can embed the images so that they always display, but it does bloat the email a little bit. It increases the size depending on how big the images are or how many images you have. So best practice is to keep the images as small as possible and optimize them so that, well, let's just say keep them under 100 kilobytes, but if you can do them even lower than that, is better. Now, if you're going to put an image in it, please include alt text in your image. Just in case it doesn't display for somebody, they'll still understand what it is they're looking at because of the alt image. So just like a website, you want to include alt images in your email signatures. Now, I'm going to just go over some design basics here, limit the colors to 2 or 3 max. Usually use the client's brand colors if they have them, plus maybe black or white for text. If you use more colors than that, it's just going to look chaotic and not sophisticated. Same with fonts, maybe 2 fonts maximum, one for headers, one for the body text. But, I shouldn't have to be telling you this. You're a designer after all. I mean, there's no harm reminding you, but you already know all this. Now, one thing to keep in mind is we like to get creative as designers, but when it comes to email signatures, you're best to use standard fonts like Arial, Helvetica, Georgia, Times New Roman, because even though custom fonts look great, if there is an issue with the delivery of the font, that the signature will often fall back to something else across different email clients. And it's possible if you used a fancy font of some sort that it could actually break your design when it switches to another font. So just design it using standard fonts, even if it's not like the company's usual font. Just design it using a standard font that's available in most email clients. That way, it'll remain consistent no matter. And of course, make sure everything aligns well. When everything lines up to a clear vertical and horizontal grid type system, the signature just communicates order and competence. If things are misaligned in your signature, it makes you look like you don't understand basic design. And that just undermines your credibility. But again, you're a designer. I shouldn't have to tell you that. Now, if you are including a button or a link in your design, which I said you really should, give your signature a purpose, you need to make it specific. Don't make the button learn more or click here. Make it something specific. View my portfolio or schedule a consultation or see my latest projects. Just like a CTA, a call to action on a website, you want something to be specific, not arbitrary or vague. And think about it from the recipient's point of view. So first person phrasing always outperforms second person. From the recipient's perspective, a button that reads "Start my free trial" will beat one that says "Start your free trial" 90% of the time. And that's true of all CTAs. So keep your CTA short, 2 to 4 words max. Let it communicate its message as quick as possible. And if you're working with clients in regulated industries such as finance, healthcare, legal, please check with them if you need compliance disclaimers. That is on you to ask if they need to be included. Many industries do require that in their signature, that there's some sort of compliance disclaimer at the bottom of every email they send out. Okay, so if you're thinking at this point that you should be making email signature design a real part of your business, think about sustainability. One-time project fees are fine, but recurring revenue is better. Consider an annual email signature refresh service. Clients contract with you to update and refresh signatures quarterly or annually, maybe, $100 or $200 per quarter. That way, a one-time $50 project becomes $600 of annual revenue. And when you have multiple clients, that becomes real money. Another approach is you can bundle this with other services. When you design a new brand identity or a website, add email signatures that implement that new branding that you've created. That sort of service fits perfectly into the scope. It's a great to upsell for projects, and it increases your average transaction value. It may be something that your competition is not offering with their package. And as I mentioned earlier, you may want to develop tiered offerings. So, for example, you can have Signature Essentials, which is one basic signature design. You provide the HTML code for them, ready to install, and they would take care of everything else themselves. They'll install it in their email program and go forward from there. And you charge, let's say $80 for this service. Then you can have Signature Professional, which will include multiple signatures for different roles, responsive designs, advanced HTML, and you charge $250. And then you can have Signature Management Plus as your third service. And that one includes design, implementation, maybe quarterly updates and maintenance, and you charge $500 or more. This lets you work with budget clients while capturing high-value projects from clients who need comprehensive solutions. It's all about offering each client what they can afford and what they need. And yes, I know that I mentioned a whole bunch of tools that you can use, and your clients can actually type it out, email signatures, do a Google search, and find these tools on their own. And they can implement everything themselves, completely bypassing you. But here's what sets you apart from them using these generic tools. It's the client support. Most people who get the HTML code have no idea how to install it in Gmail, in Outlook, in Apple Mail. So offer a service where you do it for them and then spend 30 minutes creating a clear written instruction or even do a screen recording showing exactly how to install it in each email platform and offer that as a service along with the email signature. That transforms what could be a very frustrating experience for them into a very positive one. And it builds loyalty for you. Clients will remember you, they'll refer you, and they'll come back for updates. And that level of service support is what separates a commodity offering from a premium one. So I know that's a lot to think about, but I want to tell you, before you even think about offering this as a service to your clients, make sure you do fix your own. Audit your current email signatures across all platforms. Do they reflect your current brand? Are they compelling? Is your signature compelling? Does it have a clear call to action that drives people to your portfolio or whatever destination you want them to? If not, create updated professional signatures for yourself. Another thing to consider is multiple versions of signatures for different contexts. Now, I don't do this, but when I was doing some research for this episode, I love this idea. You can have a main signature for your first contact with a prospect or cold calls, and this is a comprehensive signature. It has your name, your title, the company name, the logo, your phone, your email, a website link, which is clear, a CTA, social media icons, and a professional headshot. So it's the full kit is your email signature, and you use that for initial contacts. But once the conversations start, that can get very cumbersome. So you can create a second signature for replies in ongoing email threads. So you create a more simplified signature that just has your name and title and maybe your headshot, and that's it. And that'll prevent email threads that you're emailing back and forth from being cluttered with all these repeated logos as the conversation extends. You can even create variations based on what you're actually promoting or what you're dealing with the client with. You can have one email signature that emphasizes web design if you're reaching out to a client about web design work. You can have another one that emphasizes branding if you're pitching a brand identity to somebody. So you can change the CTAs, have custom CTAs depending on who you're corresponding with. Now, most email clients like Gmail and Outlook and Apple Mail will let you store multiple signatures and pick which one. There's usually a little drop down or something for every email. You can set the default signature, but then you can usually say, okay, I want this signature instead. And it's really, really easy to do in all these different programs. And here's the thing. Your own email signature that you're doing this becomes both a marketing tool and it's a portfolio piece. Your prospects, the people that you're reaching out to, will immediately see that your signature is well designed, properly formatted, it's compelling. So it becomes a live demonstration of your skills without requiring them to navigate to your website. That turns your signature into an active sales tool and really, really does promote the email signature design service. So I know I've covered a lot in this episode, but the point is, email signature is something we rarely think of. They're really not as boring as you think. They're business tools that directly impact how clients perceive you and whether they respond to your outreach. The research that I found is clear. Branded signatures increase response rates, they build trust, and they create positive brand perception. For your own business, a professionally designed email signature with a clear call to action pointing to your portfolio, it really strengthens your client acquisition efforts. While simultaneously, there's a market for businesses that need professional email signatures but don't know how to create them. And you can charge anywhere from $50 to $300 or more designing signatures. It's a service that plays to your strengths, it delivers real value, and can become a recurring revenue through refresh services and just regular ongoing maintenance. Reach out to your clients once a year and say, does anybody need their headshot updated? Or is there any information that you need changed in your signature? It's a great opportunity. Now, do you agree with me that the AI model that I mentioned in the story at the beginning of this episode was onto something when it chose email as a means to notify its researcher? I mean, if AI thinks email was the right choice, Who are we to argue? I wonder what its email signature looked like. Yeah, well, thanks for hanging out with me on this one. If you found it helpful, please follow the podcast so you never miss an episode. Till next time, I am Mark Decote, reminding you to stay creative.